Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
What is going on, Fun and Games podcast? Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Eric, and I am the host of the Unlockables podcast, which I bill as the story of video games, the people who play them, and the memories made along the way. When I was coming up with the idea for the Unlockables podcast, I really tried to think about the stories and the memories that I had around playing video games, and I decided to have creators on the show to kind of share what they do in the podcasting or video game space, and also share their memories and what video games mean to them. And I've been doing that for about a year now. A lot of really great people have come on the show and agreed to share some really, really touching and really deep memories, and that's been a really great experience. So that's kind of been one angle of my show, and then on the other side of it, I just kind of talk about my relationship and some stories around the games that I really like so far. I have a mini series going called Guiding Keys, the story of Kingdom Hearts, in which I am trying to go and connect all of the plot points and all the story points in Kingdom Hearts for people who might be interested in approaching the series but are just a little bit intimidated about the reputation that it has. My goal for that series is to kind of tell people, hey, it's okay, you can check it out, and you won't have to worry about anything. The story is not as complicated as people say. And then kind of other things that just really, any kind of story related to video games is stuff that I like to talk about. And the storytelling aspect of that is really cool, and it's been very rewarding. So if you'd like to check out the show, check out some interviews I've done, some games I've talked about. It's the Unlockables podcast. It can be found on any podcatcher across the internet, and find me on social media and interact with me. linktr.ee/unlockables podcast. Now, when Matt sent me the list of games that I could talk about for the side quest episode, I was scrolling through, and as I come to K, I always start to sweat a little bit because K just happens to be the letter of which my favorite game of all time starts with. And of course, I arrived in the list, and there it was, Kingdom Hearts 2. That is right. I'm going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 2, the sequel to Kingdom Hearts 1 and Chain of Memories from Square Enix, and the game that is currently the topic of my aforementioned Guiding Keys series. Now, why Kingdom Hearts? It's a series that people don't really understand from the outside looking in. It's a series that doesn't really even have any right to exist. It's such a strange idea, right? A fusion of Disney and Final Fantasy characters in this brand new world with this complex story, with this classic light versus dark, evil versus good story, right? That's something that is very strange and kind of off-putting to people, but to fans that are on the inside, we absolutely love these games to death. And for me personally, Kingdom Hearts 2 is the height of the series. I got hooked on this series when the first one came out in 2002, I believe it was. The marketing and the commercials were everywhere. Even back then, the hype for this game was absolutely palpable and understandable. Final Fantasy was riding high after the release of Final Fantasy X. They just come off a fantastic stretch of Final Fantasy games from the PS1 era. People were really eating up anything that Square was putting out, and Disney was just coming off the tail end of the Disney Renaissance. So Disney was all the rage and was probably had the most recognizable stable of characters during that time period, rivaling that of probably Nintendo, I would say, with Mario and Pokemon at the time. So, you know, as you kind of start to look at the consequences and the things that kind of came together to make Kingdom Hearts happen and the time period that you were in, it makes a little bit more sense. And it actually makes a lot more sense when you find out that Disney and Square shared a building with each other. And Disney really wanted to leverage Square's popularity to help them reach a wider audience in Japan. So Kingdom Hearts came out in 2002. And Chain of Memories followed a little while later on the Game Boy Advance, and we finally got a console sequel to Kingdom Hearts 2 in 2006. Now, I think that I've long held the belief, and I know that it's a pretty popular belief in the community, that Kingdom Hearts 2 is kind of the de facto Kingdom Hearts experience. It was really kind of when the team led by series creator and director Tetsuya Nomura really found their stride and were really able to hone in on what this game was going to be. And it was a pretty steep divergence from what Final Fantasy was at the time. You know, Final Fantasy was still this kind of slower game that told this epic story, but the combat portion of it was turn-based or starting to become a little more interactive, but still kind of a more slow strategic form of combat, whereas Kingdom Hearts from early on had leaned fully into this action RPG style of gameplay that's really kind of become more prevalent as more Final Fantasy games come out and as Square has been putting out more and more games. The upcoming Final Fantasy 16 sure looks like it draws a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy 7 Remake and the Kingdom Hearts series. But with Kingdom Hearts 2, they were able to make a lot of changes and adjustments from the first game that they didn't really have time to work on just due to the pressure of getting this game out and having to kind of run everything through Disney. It was really the first time these two were working together. So there's a lot of ironing out of the kinks to be able to figure out how that partnership would work. But Kingdom Hearts 2 really was Disney and Square, that partnership firing on all cylinders. And they really kind of figured out what they wanted that game to be. It was during Kingdom Hearts 2 that the one requirement that Final Fantasy series creator Hironobu Sakaguchi had of Nomura while he was creating and directing Kingdom Hearts he told Nomura that Kingdom Hearts absolutely had to aim for the narrative complexity of a Final Fantasy game for it to be successful. And I think in Kingdom Hearts 2, the series really starts to take off in regards to that narrative complexity. Still at the point where it's approachable, but it really hits that level of narrative complexity that I think you would find in any other Final Fantasy game. So for me, this game had a lot of elements of things that I loved. I was a big fan of RPGs. Growing up, the first RPG I ever played was Super Mario RPG, and then closely followed by Final Fantasy IX. And those two titles really cemented my love of RPGs, my love of Square. And then growing up also, I did watch a lot of Disney movies. I have some of my earliest memories were going to the movie theater to see The Lion King when it came out. I believe I was 3 years old at the time. And that was one of my early, most formative memories. And I had loved all of the Disney movies from that era growing up. Aladdin, Hercules, Little Mermaid, all of those. So when the marketing hit and I was able to see that it was a game by the people who made Final Fantasy and by the people who made the movies that I loved growing up, that was a no-brainer. I absolutely had to ask for it. And when I was fortunate enough to get a PlayStation 2 for Christmas, I was able to get Kingdom Hearts as well. Kingdom Hearts was my first introduction to a lot of the other Final Fantasy games. I hadn't played 7 or 8, so I wasn't familiar with Squall or Cloud or a lot of those other characters. But this and Kingdom Hearts 2 really cemented my love of those characters and made me want to go back and check those out. Now, Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically, like I said, I feel like it's the de facto Kingdom Hearts experience, and the gameplay really lives up to that. It's faster, it's more dynamic, it's more intense. There are more options in combat than Kingdom Hearts 1, whereas I think Kingdom Hearts 1 is great in its own right, in its own game. 2 just really kicks it up a notch and improves literally on pretty much everything from the first game. There aren't really many things, if at all, that I can think of in Kingdom Hearts 2 where I would say, oh, 1 or Chain of Memories absolutely did it better. And this is the point where my love of Kingdom Hearts started to turn into obsession, was with Kingdom Hearts 2, because the story just becomes this beautifully complex narrative of this story about Sora searching for his friends and trying to figure out what his place in the world is and trying to unravel this mystery of Organization 13, all the while searching for his friends who he thinks that he has lost them, but never giving up hope that he might find them, with his trusty companions, Donald and Goofy, in tow. And I think this was the reason that this game really struck a chord with me when I was young. At that age, I think I would have been about, 2006. I probably would have been about in my early teens. I was still playing video games, and I think it was the story of Kingdom Hearts 2 that really, really cemented its place in my heart as a game that I really, really love, because Kingdom Hearts 2 tells this really touching story, and there are a lot of fantastic themes in it about identity, about finding your place in the world and what you're supposed to do. It also tells a really fantastic story of reunion with people that you may not have seen in a while, and the connections between you and that person, that bond that you have between people, that even though you may not have seen them in a long time, that bond, that friendship still exists. It's also a story of self-actualization, finding out what your role in the world is, what you're meant to do, what are the things that give you satisfaction, and what gives you true happiness. And a lot of those themes have really stuck with me through to today. I'm a 31, about to turn 32-year-old man, and a lot of the stories of Kingdom Hearts I have brought with me through to adulthood. I think those are still very, very relevant. As we start to grow up and as we start to get older, the world turns a little more gray. Things aren't as joyful, as cheery as they once seemed, right? As the reality of the world sets in. As a kid, you kind of have that boundless optimism in the way that Sora does, that you can accomplish anything. You can accomplish your dreams and, go after anything. And I still truly believe that you can do that, but the adult world is just a lot harsher than what you're led to believe growing up. So I really try to bring the elements of that story along with me, that boundless optimism of Sora and the bond between the people that I call my friends, making sure to check up on them and make sure that, we have that time together, because you never know when you're not going to have that time together anymore. It's very, very important. All those themes are extremely, extremely prevalent in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I think that's why I love it to this day. It also tells a really, really touching story of male friendship that you don't normally get in a video game. Most times when male to male friendships are depicted, it's either, as lovers or as on the other end of it, like this dude, bro, grab a beer, let's go watch some sports type of male friendship. But this is a depiction of a really tender male friendship between Sora and his best friend Riku, who are able to openly express themselves, tell each other how they feel, talk about their feelings and complicated things with one another by the end of the game. And that's not something that you get to see too often in video games or just kind of in media storytelling in general. And that's not something that is normally looked upon in a positive light in our society. Men are expected to kind of grit their teeth and shut off their emotions, go with the flow, be the provider, not let anything hurt us, not show that anything is capable of hurting us. And we're not really supposed to talk about our feelings. But here you have an example of two male friends that are not in a romantic relationship, despite the fact that a lot of people ship them together, which is fine, the fan art and the fanfics and all that stuff. But you have a really just fantastic example of a strong male friendship where these two characters have been through so much that they're able to have this level of comfortability with one another. And I loved all that. I still love all that. I still take those lessons forward with me to this day and try to. I know it might sound. Don't ever let anyone tell you that a video game can't influence you or have an effect on your life, because it absolutely can. And a lot of the lessons that I learned and the things that I tried to do in my life are from the heroes in the video games that I played growing up, Mario and Sora, and always trying to do good and always just trying to leave the world a better place, always trying to smile and remain optimistic even when the odds are stacked against you. All those things I try to take into my life each and every day. And especially from Kingdom Hearts, all those themes are incredibly, incredibly relevant. To close out as well, Kingdom Hearts 2 is also a game that I go to in hard times. It is a comfort. It is like a warm blanket that I can go to when life gets rough. Growing up in high school, I didn't have the ability to play sports with my friends. I had really bad allergies. I had asthma. I couldn't keep up with them. So I felt excluded from that part of friendships, not being able to have the bond of playing sports with your friends growing up. So video games became an outlet for me to feel accepted, to compete, to feel like I was accomplishing something. It gave me that positive reinforcement that I didn't get from playing sports or those activities that I was excluded from. And Kingdom Hearts 2 has been there in every step of my life where I have struggled growing up, whether it was hard times at school, whether it was through devastating breakups, moments of anxiety, of depression where I didn't think I could finish college, moments of anxiety and depression where I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life or where I wanted to go with my career, or when I just didn't see a way out of the situations that I was in. Kingdom Hearts 2 was always there for me, and I could always escape into that world, into the wonderful, wonderful story that Tetsuya Nomura created, and feel happy and be reminded that, hey, you got to keep fighting and you got to keep a smile on your face. And no matter what you do, lean on your friends and lean on your loved ones. So for those reasons alone, Kingdom Hearts 2 holds a really, really special place in my heart. And would you look at that? We're coming up on close to the time to be done with. I can't ramble about Kingdom Hearts 2 much more. Otherwise, Matt will yell at me. I try to keep these episodes shorter, right? But I just, again, like to extend a very, very special thank you to Matt for allowing me to be on a SideQuest episode for Fun and Games podcast. It really, really does mean the world to me. If you'd like to hear more about Kingdom Hearts 2 or the Kingdom Hearts series in general, like I said, come over to the Unlockables podcast. Check out the Guiding Keys series. We got so far like 8 to 10 hours of really, really great Kingdom Hearts stuff. You can hear me ramble on about there for hours about this weird game that I love so much. But until then, I'd like to leave you all with my favorite greeting from Kingdom Hearts. May your heart be your guiding key. And as always, happy gaming.
Hey.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV.
certainpov.com.